K through 12 education, there is a significant belief gap. And I think for many of us, especially our black boys, we are an accumulation of the stories that we receive about ourselves. And so the belief gap in K through 12 education is the gap between what students can actually achieve and what professors, teachers, disciplinarians, deans believe the students can achieve. Unfortunately, and it's not a stretch of the imagination at all, black males are at the bottom of that belief gap. And so they start to receive messages of inferiority, or we start to receive messages of inferiority, really starting in that P through 3 space. So unfortunately for many of us, we continue to dream, but our dreams now circumvent formal education. And so for me, for example, a story about myself, I always saw myself as capable, but I didn't do really well in my initial math classes in elementary school. Really great in many subjects. I didn't perform as well in math, and so I started to receive the story that I'm not good in math. Carried that with me through elementary school, although I was gifted and talented. Carried that with me through middle school, although I was in the charter program. And then when I got to high school, I went to an accelerated high school on a college campus. And it was a high school with extremely high achievers. Everybody was a high achiever. And I had to throw away some of the stories that I learned before, because my expectation from home and from my environment was that I would do well. And I realized that these stories were handicapping me. I ended up going into that high school. I got a chance to take college calculus as a high school junior. And my rule in my household was that you can never bring home anything below a B. You're an A student, so you need to bring home A's, and C's are completely not acceptable. And unfortunately, in my college calculus, which I think I deserve a little grace from, in my college calculus class, I received a C, and it really exacerbated this concept that I'm not capable of being successful in math. Well, unfortunately, I carried that with me through college. I avoided math classes in college. And when I got to my first master's program, I realized that I would need to conquer math in order to actually be successful in pursuit of the degree. Well, lo and behold, I was successful. I had to have that experience again while going to pursue my doctorate. This time I needed several advanced statistics courses. Again, I was capable of doing it. What I realized in that space is that when we believe that we're not capable, it translates into our experience. When we believe that we are capable, it translates to our experience, right? I believe, therefore I am. And so for me, when we receive those negative stories and we don't have any type of counter imaging, any type of counter story, unfortunately, those stories are who we become. If I didn't have those additional experiences with math, unfortunately, I would sit in front of you today with my big PhD and I would tell you, I'm not very capable in the math subject.
Does the Institute help with that?
The Institute, I think, completely flips that on its head, right? I think the Institute, the stories that we hear when we initially come to the Institute are, you are the best of the best, and God has given you specifically a talent for you to go out and now change the world. Each of you has been given something specific that makes you unique and special. That is the message that's told over and over and over, and then you have high expectations. Dr. Keyes would talk to us, and I don't quote George Bush very often, but Dr. Keyes quotes George Bush, and I happen to agree with him on this one subject. Dr. Keyes talked about George Bush's concept on the soft bigotry of low expectations. Many of our young black men are victims, as George Bush pointed out, of the soft bigotry of low expectations. As I was that gifted and talented student in 3rd grade, I was often heralded. I was paraded around the school for simply being able to say my name and tie my shoes, right? Look at Calvin and look how great he is. But the reality is there weren't very high expectations for me. There were low expectations for my peers, but there weren't very high expectations for me. And I think, unfortunately, we either live down to or live up to our expectations. In the Institute, to be very clear, those expectations are through the roof. And because you already have been selected in this very, very extensive selection process, you believe that you actually do have the ability to be successful in this process, and that permeates the classroom experience. I came to the Institute, a cohort of 12 students. I was one of the few HBCU students. I have many of my peers and colleagues from Ivies. My first time sitting down in the classroom with Ivy League students. And what I learned immediately was that Dr. Keyes was right. I do have something special. I'm just as special as my friend from Harvard, just as special as my friend from Yale. And by the way, if you give us all the opportunity, some of you guys are gonna be chasing me for some of these subjects, right? And so I think the Institute provides you with extremely high expectations, but then it provides you with love and support to ensure that when you fail, as is natural and normal for you to do, failure is a normal part of any process. When you fail, the person with real belief, the person with high self-efficacy, realizes that failure is simply a part of my process. The person who has been beat down by the soft bigotry of low expectation says, oh yeah, you're right. This ground is where I belong. And you look around on the ground and all your homies down there. And all the homies have made it nice down there. The music is playing, it's a party on the floor. And when you try to stand back up, the homies looking at you like, what you doing up there? Mm-hmm. Down here is where we belong. They've now engulfed themselves in those low expectations where the Institute sits on the other side of that spectrum. Who can you be? If you work to be the best version of yourself, what does that look like? Oh, and by the way, that's a requirement just to get in the door.
Would you be where you are today without the Institute? Or maybe the better question is, how did the Institute help you to get to where you are today?
So both and, right? The reality is, no, I would not be who I am today without the Institute. And I think when I think about the work that I did earlier with the students, I've done 2 events today speaking to students, parents, administrators. I would not be able to do that work in the same manner. I think the Institute is unapologetically authentic. It is a program for high achieving Black men. And that's not always a popular thing in today's climate. But we are completely unapologetic about creating a cohort. That's the other part about this. You're not going through this as an individual. The concept of this is that you go through and you become a family, right? On this campus, we originated 5 of the 9 fraternities and sororities that make up the Divine Nine, the major Black fraternities and sororities. 5 of them started here at Howard. All of them, you go through a membership intake process of learning about the organization and joining the organization. Those people that join those organizations are friends. I did a keynote for an event. Some of those guys are friends for 40 and 50 years, 60 and 70 years. They remain really tight in those experiences. Well, when you look back and say, well, what brought you so close together? It was the bonds that we built while going through this experience together. When you go through the Institute, you have to wear suits in the summertime in DC. It's hot and muggy. You're all going through that together. You have to wake up early. A lot of times you go to bed late. When you are on the weekend, frequently you're having intellectual discourse around the topics in the classroom. Your brain is always on. But the reality is you're building a community of other people whose brain are always on and who expect to utilize that information to go out and change the environment around them.
Did we see the impact and the influence of the Institute when we saw you interacting with those students?
No doubt about it. I mean, and I don't know if you got a chance to get this on tape, but 2 of the students talked about the significant role that I played in their lives. I also don't think you got on tape, but I cried on stage. I cried on stage today because I was emotional thinking about the growth and development of one of the young men that came into that space. A young man that said in his first meeting with me, I feel like you guys lied to me. I'm supposed to be able to come to a Howard University to find appropriate images of mentorship, to find the appropriate ideas of what I can aspire to. This is the pandemic. I'm in my house. My homeboys are knocking on my door and you expect me to be successful. I don't have a community. I don't have anything that's picking me up. And the homies are trying to bring me into a life that I am attempting to leave from. That young man is now a graduating senior and is going off to change the world through his experience here. When I think about what the Institute has done in that experience, it has helped me understand that 1, by pouring into this young man, I'm not only changing his life, but I am changing all of the lives that he will touch. That is a hallmark factor in the Institute. Dr. Keys doesn't just pour into 12 young men. I don't know if that would would have the global impact that he was looking for. The concept is, how do I pour into these 12 young men and provide them with such gravity so that when they leave this space, they're able to impact the world around them? Tupac Amaru Shakur had a famous quote. He said, I might not change the world, but I guarantee you I'll spark the mind of the person that will. And I think I carry that spark with me when I communicate with my students. I carry that emotion with me. I carry that determination with me when I interact with my students. And a great deal of that is because I understand the empowerment. I understand what happens if you can build this young person up in a manner that they cannot be torn down by society. For so many of our young Black men, we're simply trying to figure out if we can see a king in the mirror, right? We have been engulfed and inundated so frequently by the images of our inferiority. But how do we clean that mirror? And the Institute is a mirror cleaning factory. How do you ensure that when you clean that mirror, you turn back and you see a clear image of the king that you were meant to be? You are capable. You all have capabilities, and your God, whoever your God is, whoever your creator is, has given you something that nobody else on this planet has. Even if you failed every class in your life, you're special. And you have to take that gift to go out and impact the people around you. Otherwise, you're squandering what the creator is giving you. And so the reason why I was crying up there is because it was a in-person manifestation, as I get somewhat emotional now, of that work. To see Josh go from where he was to where he is today is why we do this work. And so I think that originally came from my father, Harold Hadley. Shout out to Harold Hadley. And I think that the Institute was able to carry that forward.
What makes you emotional about it?
I think the impact of this work, right? I think, this work is changing the world, right? I know that's a heavy statement, but this work is changing the world. Right now, if we are not able to communicate to the black male population their power, when I trace the data forward as a sociologist, I see a lot of trouble for my community. And I think that these are the type of programs, this is the type of relationship, this is the type of environment that is going to provide us with the ability to be successful tomorrow. And so I don't get emotional on purpose. But I think that this is why God put me here on this planet. I think this is why God put Bill Keys on this planet. And ultimately, I feel so privileged just to be a servant, right? Just to be able to serve. My parents gave me this, or instilled me with this idea that to whom much is given, much is expected. And so I feel so privileged to be a servant, to be able to serve my people and my community. And I really do believe that this work is going to change the world. And so I frequently get emotional when I think about the lives of these individuals. These are real people, right? These are real people that are going to go off and have families, that are going to go off and change the world. And I'm really thankful that I get a chance to play the role that I do.